My name is Ndwandwe, and I'm going to be having a conversation with various interesting individuals within the field. And today, I've got an esteemed colleague. Her name is Kgomotso. Kgomotso, welcome to the podcast, and thank you for agreeing to be part of this podcast. Please introduce yourself to the people so they know who we are engaging with today.
Hi everyone, and hi Ndwandwe. Thank you so much for having me today. It's actually an honor to be here on this wonderful platform that aims to share, the insights and the secrets of marketing. My name is Kgomotso Ndwandwe. My maiden name is Motsanaka. I'm 27 years old. I'm a mother of 2 boys, and I am happily married. I was born and raised here in Johannesburg, so I'm a Joburg girlie. In a little area called Mixon Manor. It's in the Lenasia South. And I am the founder of OMG Group, which is a PR and branding company. And I'm just here to share more about my journey.
Fantastic. Thank you for introducing yourself. And it's so wonderful and exciting for me as the OG to sit with young people that are making a difference within the industry. This podcast is really more around people telling their stories. Some of these stories might not necessarily be glitz and glam. They might not show any form of success, but in each story, there's always a teachable moment. So I'm going to set the scene for you. Okay. And post setting the scene for you, I'd like you to just run with the baton after I've just handed it over to you. So picture yourself being surrounded by 20 little Ndwandwe. You're sitting around some boma, and Ndwandwe is very interested in hearing your story within the marketing field, how you got in, how you were propelled to be where you are, what are the lessons that you've learned, who really believed in you and gave you the opportunity to be in that space.
Wow, that's a very nice setting, actually. How I started in this industry. Actually, my first job, I was actually a pharmacist assistant at Netcare Sunninghill. That's what I did after high school. But in my working there, I was the youngest because I finished school very young. I finished at 17, so before I was 18, I was already in that job. So I was the one that's always organizing like the internal events. I was the one that's like trying to, do all the entertaining stuff for everyone. I was more focused on the event side of it and how we appear to our customers, how we can stand out in the hospital as the best department, That was me. That was actually me. And then I remember I was such a big fan of 5FM. I used to listen to 5FM every day, and I would call in, send in SMSs, tell them about like what am I doing at the pharmacy and so forth. Until I got an opportunity, to job shadow like the content producers, because at that time I thought I'd be like a radio content producer. So I went and I job shadowed it, and then I was interested in it. At the same time, I felt like I couldn't get to there because obviously with our parents, if I'm working in a pharmacy and I want to go to radio, it's like I'm throwing away my career.
Like, what are you doing?
It didn't make sense, But lucky for me, what I know is that someone's always listening. Someone's always watching. Someone's always listening. Luckily for me, there were people watching and listening. And I got the opportunity, when social media was starting, because I was very active on social media, I got the opportunity to actually start being an influencer. It wasn't even influencer at the time. It was to be part of a promo team. We call them promo teams. So while I was working at the pharmacy, someone approached me and they were like, hey, we want you on our promo team. We heard you were on 5FM and now we want you to promote this event that's linked to the station, And that's how I got into this entire thing. That was what unraveled where I am today. So I started being on the promo teams for Twitter, and then Instagram came. We went on to Instagram, Facebook, As time went, I realized that, I am actually in the wrong place. And one thing about me, I'm not afraid to start something new. I'm not afraid to get up and leave where I am to start something else, especially when I feel like I don't belong here in this moment. It was fine when I started, but now things are changing, things are evolving. This is where I see myself. Yes. Yes. I got an opportunity to study at Boston Media House. One of the DJs at 5am was actually the ambassadors for Boston Media House. So I was the first to pick up that applications are open, apply.
I remember that time.
Yeah, study this. And I'm like, oh, okay. I like that. In the first year, you get to study marketing, radio, advertising, TV. So the prospect of Boston Media House is that in the first year you study all of those fields so that you can pick up what it is you're passionate about. So I took that chance. I got accepted. I got accepted very late, actually. I even thought I was not in. I had given up. I'm like, what? Maybe I hadn't got in. And the email was going to come in late. I had missed it. Email was going to come in late, and then I did my registration and everything. And I got in. I couldn't believe it because I was supposed to do my final year. I was doing a learnership with pharmacist assistant. I was supposed to do my final year, which is post-basic. I just dropped it. I dropped it so I could go to school. So I dropped the salary, I dropped the learning, I just dropped everything so I could go to Boston Media House. One of the guys I know, I think he works at Sony Music now, Yul was like, hey, I'm running an entertainment blog and I don't have time on my hands. Can you take over it for me? Oh. Yes, so I started blogging. I used to love writing at that time, but now I don't have the time to. So I started blogging while I was in Boston Media House. And in my first year, Ndwandwe approached me. She's like, hey, there's a PR intern position available at Ambitious Entertainment. Are you interested? I'm like, but I'm only in my first year. Like, how am I going to carry out the functions of an intern, in my first year? But I thought, what? This person can see the work that I'm doing through these blogs and they can see the potential. So let me just give it a shot. Once again, I gave it a shot. My interview went well. I couldn't believe it. When you go to an interview just so that you can say you went there, but you don't expect to get the job. That's what I did.
Taking chances.
Yeah, I took a chance. I was like, okay, since I'm being approached and this person feels like I'm the right person for the job, let me try. I don't have the qualification. I don't have the experience. I'm still in my first year. The only experience I have was in a hospital pharmacy. Took a chance, went to the interview. They loved me. They loved my writing. They loved my work. Even now, I still say that I am like the queen of press releases. So I got the job. I started at Ambitious Entertainment when Sjava was there. Loiso had just gotten in. Black Diamond got in while I was still there. That's when I started at Ambitious. And then as time went, I remember this one time where my boss was like, you know what, we have a new duo, it's Black Diamond, and I want you to give me 100 interviews and features this month. I was...
From a PR perspective.
Yeah, from a PR perspective. I was the PR intern. I was so nervous, I didn't think I could do it. But I actually did it. I delivered. I gave them 100 features, interviews, like publicity. I gave them that. And I think that was the most stressful time of my life. But I also highlighted it as the biggest highlights of my careers because it just showed me that, if you put your mind to it, you can actually do anything.
Absolutely.
You can do anything. That went well with Ambitious. When we were there.
Carry on into the next phase after Ambitious, I think you touched on two very pertinent things when one is doing anything in life. The ability to take chances and bet on yourself, which is what you did, and I think that's a teachable moment. And then you were thrown in the deep end from you registering to study media at Boston House, which is a great opportunity and you took it, to you shifting to be a PR intern, and within that space, you were then asked to come up with a PR plan for this new artist. How did you do that? I mean, if somebody was put in the same position as you with very little expertise, if you can then just take them through how you did that, for them to also learn maybe and take a couple of nuggets from you.
So what I told myself is that we're not born with all the knowledge and skills. You need to ask for help, and you need to speak out. If you want something, ask for it and you'll get it, I think that's the only way I got through it, because I knew I had a plan. I wrote it down. This is the plan and this is what I need to do. The next step is I need to ask. I need to communicate. If I need help, I need to speak to the people around me. They've been here longer than I have. There's no point in making yourself a know-it-all. No matter how long you've been in a career or how long you've done something, it's always good to seek knowledge from those around you. So how I did that, I asked around, I sent out emails. I sat down. I didn't have a solid media list at that time. It's just the media list I had from school, which it was not practical. Yeah, it was more info ads, what. But you know that you need one person, that you can talk to directly.
Yes.
So I would ask her, I would call these companies and say, hey, I'm Kgomotso from Ambitious. This is what I'm doing, and I'm looking for someone that can assist me in that. I would sit on the phone for hours. I would go to school at 8 in the morning, come back from school at 3, go to the office at 4, and maybe knock out at 11 p.m., 12 p.m. because I'm just drafting emails. I'm trying to find people, to make this goal a reality, Wow. So, that's how I did it. I had to put in my all so that I can prove to myself, not only to my superiors, but to myself as well, that, you can actually do this.
Yes.
And one thing we were taught there is that foundation is so important for every artist. I didn't just focus on the big stations like your Metro FMs. I went to the smaller stations, the smaller communities. I'd ask them, where are you guys from? Okay, you're from Ladysmith. Let's see the radio stations around there. Obviously, they're going to be the first to accept you because they want to see you excel.
Correct.
When we come out of Ladysmith,
yes.
Okay, what's the biggest city closer there? It's Durban. Let's call Durban. After Durban, before we get to Joburg and your SABCs and the top 10, I targeted those smaller ones because I knew that they would be more responsive.
Yes.
And with PR, what I love about PR is that you get to, I won't say sugarcoat everything, but you get to emphasize on your achievements. So when I was calling the bigger stations, I'd say, hi, I need an interview for Black Diamond. They've already done 15 stations in KZN. So now they see a track that, they're not coming here first, but they've done 15 stations already, meaning people notice them.
Yes.
People know that they exist.
Yes.
Let's also give them a chance.
To have conversations with them. Yes.
Yeah. So I started small, and then we came up with it. And
fantastic. Even
today, in everything that I do, that's the approach I take.
Start small, and then build on it.
Slow and steady wins the race, basically.
Excellent. That's another teachable moment. Slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah.
So post you doing PR, what was the next phase of your life?
That's when I started my company.
Okay.
So after Ambitious, I didn't go on to work for someone else full time, but I started my own PR company. Because I felt at that time, my life was actually spiraling out of control. Because now I'm in school, I'm not focusing anymore, so I had to drop out after the first year. But I'm still working. My work is growing. And at that point, sometimes when something happens too quickly, we forget the foundation, the basic steps. So at that point, I felt like I'm so ahead of what we're learning at school. I'm so ahead of my class. I won't lie. At that point, I was like,
from
you know what?
Practical perspective.
I don't need this anymore. I was like, I don't. It's fine if I drop out because I'm here now. I'm starting my own company and da 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 da. But as time went, I realized that there is no point in skipping the first steps. You need to go back. At some point in your life, you have to go back and complete the first steps, no matter how far you think you are.
What are these first steps?
Like in terms of, I thought that like I was so much better than the first year because practically I'm like working with the big artists now. I'm in the limelight now and all of that. But as soon as
is a trap that a lot of us fall through.
Which I saw when I started my company to say, okay, it was fun while I was working for someone because I had backup.
Correct.
But now I am alone. I'm starting, I need to know everything step by step so that if I were to employ someone, I'd be able to depart that knowledge onto that person.
Fantastic.
You know? So then I decided to go back to school. I started with UNISA, still doing the public relations course. So I started with UNISA and I was back to square one. We were back to what is public relations.
So there's another teachable moment here. You got a bursary.
Yes.
At Boston.
Yes.
So fully paid.
Yeah.
And then you decided, because somebody gave you an opportunity, you're now in the industry, you are dealing with the big guns, that you were also big. And you're going to squash that bursary. Yeah. Because you are the girl.
Basically. Sounds so sad.
And then in between that period, like how long did it take you to actually realize that actually I am not what I think I am, and these are the fundamentals that I need, which then contributed to you actually going back to UNISA? We are endorsing UNISA.
So it didn't take long. I'm a person who loves reading, and I love actually following the steps or the paths of people that I see myself in, or people that I feel like, you know what, one day I want to be that person, or I want to be on that level. And when I follow books and I follow the journeys of those people, I realize that one thing is consistent. Like I said, slow and steady wins the race. Like you need to start, you know. You need to know your business. You need to know everything inside so that it could be operational. You know? You don't go into your business as an expert. You go into your business as an intern. You're an intern of your own business. You know?
That is so true.
So that's when I realized that, you know what, there's no point in me like knowing how to write the best press releases and this and this and this and this. I need to also know, like, I need to know how to interact with people at a lower level, you know, because the clients that I'm going to take on probably don't know about this industry. They've heard about public relations, but I need to be the one that explains to them, like in layman terms, that this is what it is and this is what needs to be done. So I had to go back to what is public relations so that I could use that knowledge to actually build my business from scratch.
Yes.
And to impart that knowledge on the clients that I would be taking on. Because obviously, when you start a business, not as the same as working for someone, you don't start with the big guys. You know, you need to start building your brand. You need to start building trust around your brand. And you start with those, you know, smallanyana jobs, piece jobs. And those are the hardest, by the way. They're harder than like your well-known people because there's already a pattern, there's already a system. But with beginners, with upcoming artists, you have to start from like baby steps. So it was important for me to go back to school to actually internalize those baby steps, not only to just pass at the end of the year and go on to the second year or what, but to internalize them so that I can implement them in this business that I was trying to build. But at the time, I feel like I gave in everything, you know. I sacrificed my bursary, I sacrificed my job, you know. So I had to make this right, you know. I had to do whatever it took, you know, for me to say, okay, if this this thing that I'm starting here, if I want it to last for years, I need to go back. I need to go back and do this correctly. I can't cut corners, because when you cut corners, they're definitely going to catch up with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And should be noted that when you cut corners, it always catches up with you.
Yeah.
In you telling your story in the early stages of you starting off as an intern, you deciding to take the leap to start your own thing, it seems as though the starting point has always been within the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
If somebody was interested to render any marketing services within the entertainment industry, what would be your 5-step guide or your 3-step guide for them to actually get started? And sustainability is actually very important.
With me being in the entertainment industry, I think at that time it was all I knew. So that was my strongest point. But I would tell someone that wants to start in the entertainment industry to always work with something that you believe in. You know, don't just take clients, or don't just take upcoming artists, or don't just take artists in general because of the money, or because, oh my gosh, this name is popular. But you need to believe in the person. That's something I learned along the way. At first, I would just like take upcoming artists and think, this is easy. But as time went, I realized that, you know what, if I don't believe in the craft that they're putting out, there is no way that I'm going to take it to the next level.
What made you realize that?
In working with them. Like, you don't put in the same passion that you do with something that you believe in, because with something that you believe in, you want it to say, like, you want other people to hear or to see what it is that you're seeing, you know. But with something that you don't believe in, it's just okay, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But there's this kind of passion that you get when you work with an artist whose song you've heard and you think this song is going to be a hit, you know, because you want people to hear what you're hearing. So you're going to put in more effort in making sure that the message that you want to send out is received correctly. So yeah, I think that's the main important thing. If you want to work with people in general, you know, you need to believe in what it is that they're selling, so that you can sell it like better than anyone else.
Yes, because you've now owned it.
Yes,
basically.
yes.
Great. And then from ambitious, so that's chapter 2. Your chapter 2 is starting your own business.
Yeah.
Chapter 3, or within chapter 2, you then decided to go back to UNISA. And then you started engaging up-and-coming artists to represent them from a PR perspective.
Yes.
And then what is your chapter 3?
My chapter 3 was broadening. You know, I started finding interest in other things that I felt would gel in so well with public relations. Because I realized when I was working just in PR, people didn't understand, you know, the value of branding and how branding applies in our everyday life. So chapter 3 for me was actually broadening my mind to say, you know what, let me not just focus on PR, but let me just bring in branding as a whole. Because at that time, artists that I was working with, or the people I worked with, they thought PR was just getting social media influencers on Twitter to talk about your song on a Friday and pay them, and that's it. So yeah,
Once off.
Yeah. So that's the budget they had, and that's all they wanted to do. So I was like, you know what, let me broaden this so that whoever comes and works with me, then I can give them an idea of what it is that they need to actually like excel in the space they're in. So I started, I did in social media management because I realized that, you know what, it's fine, I'm doing your PR, but you don't know how to manage your own social media account.
Yeah.
Some of the people didn't even have social media accounts. Like, we're in a digital age.
How long ago was this?
Not so long ago, actually, like 2019. Yeah, 2018, 2019.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, social media management. Give me your social media. Let me handle it for you. These are the steps. When you're releasing a song, this is what we need to do, So I would manage the social media accounts, because I wanted the accounts to reflect the person.
The brand.
Yeah, the brand. I wanted that account to... If people are listening to your music, they need to see you dressed in a certain way.
Correct.
They need to associate you with something.
Correct.
You can't be this person on one day and then tomorrow you're this person.
Correct.
So I needed to be that person to say, okay, I'm going to handle your social media, and this is the direction we're taking.
Actually, as you are saying that, the picture that just came to mind is I watched the Mendoza series.
Yeah.
And I remember when they signed him on as an individual artist, they really changed his image.
Yes.
He had sunglasses on. And at that time, obviously, there wasn't any social media,
Yeah.
but we knew Mendoza to be this hardcore guy, sunglasses on, bomber jackets, husky voice. So the brand Mendoza was really established and solidified then. So it makes sense with what you were saying.
So imagine if you saw Mendoza in a different light every time. Like today, Mendoza is the bodybuilder. Tomorrow, he's a businessman in suits. Like you wouldn't know who he is and what to associate him with. And with branding, it needs to be personal.
Yes.
Like someone needs to say, this is how I dress.
I think your story of a brand and educating people on how to build a brand within the different platforms is fantastic. And it actually reminds me of the series that I watched, the Mendoza series that I watched. So after they signed him on as Mendoza, they rebranded him. And you could see the transition of how we viewed Mendoza, because when he was in the group, they wore disporti, and then they wore these outfits that were very similar, and I think at some point it was dangarees or whatever.
Yeah.
But when the brand Mendoza was built, he started wearing sunglasses, he started wearing bomber jackets. That husky voice was now a focal point, and his brand move. We knew Mendoza with that singular pelvic shifting dance thing. So I fully agree with you that a singular brand helps in associating with that particular person or that particular service or product.
Yeah, because imagine if you had to see Mendoza in a different light, like every week. Today is Mendoza in a suit. Next week he's a gym bunny. Next week, like you wouldn't know who he's selling to.
Yeah.
There needs to be one boy that says, you know what, when I grow up, I want to have a husky voice and sing like Mendoza and dress like this and dress like that.
Yes.
But now if you're introducing so many different characters in one brand, it just loses the essence of it. You lose your niche group, you lose that niche focus, which is so important in today's marketing. It needs to be personal. It needs to appeal to someone that says, okay, this is what I'm working towards, and this is the image that I'd like myself to be. So that is why branding is so important, and it's so important for me to actually explain that to whoever I work with, that before we market you, we need to have a brand. Marketing is all about emotionals. It's all about personal experience. So if people can't associate you with something or can't put you together with something, they won't remember you. Because what is there to remember?
Within your journey, you make valid points. And I think the takeout between your chapter 1 and chapter 3 thus far is that marketing is not an easy thing to do, like some people believe that it is. There's a level of science to it. I always say marketing is really not about taking flowers and putting them at the center of the table, and you think, yes, I do marketing because somebody gave me a contract to run an event for them and I've put a flower there. There's really more to it. You have to study it. You have to understand what is happening at that point, who you want to speak to, right? How you want to speak to them, how you want them to see you when you're engaging with them, which are really, really important points, because I don't think anybody gets into any industry to be a one-hit wonder, right? Everybody gets in and has a view of longevity, to be long-lasting, to be remembered, to make an impact in whichever way they want to. So now you've spoken about brand, your chapter 3. What happens in chapter 4?
Yeah, chapter 4. Chapter 4 was hectic for me. Chapter 4 was hectic because I had just gotten married. I got married very young. I think I was 22 or 23, because I'm 5 years married now. So I got married very young. So I had to find that balance of, okay, like things are shifting for me, and whatever happens in my personal life definitely affects my business, because if I can't show up in my first personal life, I can't show up in my business. So, I was at the point where I'm trying to navigate how to be a wife, what it means to be married. I'm working in the entertainment space. I go clubbing for a living. I get paid. Yeah, I get paid to attend events. I work with influencers. Like I get paid to, do stuff which I felt when I got married that, my husband didn't have a problem with it, because he made me in that space. But for me as a person, I had to come to terms with, what, I'm married and this is what I want my marriage to look like. I don't want to be the kind of wife that's always out clubbing. There's nothing wrong with that, but I felt like for myself and for my marriage, this is the route that I want to take. So I had to align my business to those values that I was starting to gain as a married person, like a married Kgomotso, not the single one. How do I shift my business to accommodate, my personal life? Because I can't just say, okay, guys, I don't club anymore, bye.
Yes.
This is business for me. Yeah. Yes. So it had to be a transition. And unfortunately, while I was transitioning that, I lost a child in that period. So it was just like a tough season. I felt like at that time this was 2020, just before COVID.
Yeah.
I felt like it was a season of loss for me. Because I felt like I'm losing myself now. I've lost this child. Like I'm slowly losing my business, because I don't know where I am. At that point, I did not know what my business did, where it is. Like I felt like there was no purpose at that point, because I was in this process of transitioning it into the vision that I saw for it as a married person now. But right in the middle of that now, I am losing my child and I'm losing my mind. I remember we even just took the decision to say, you know what, let's sell this house, let's move to Durban. Now I feel like I'm losing my friends, I'm losing everything that I've grown being used to. I grew up in Joburg. It's the only life I know, I started working here. Everything is here. When we get to Durban, okay, I switch off for a while, because I was just like, you know what, I need to process this grief correctly so that it doesn't hit me hard in future. While we're processing it, we're on 21-day lockdown. I thought it was over.
It was over for a lot of people thought it was over for them. Yes.
It was the end for me.
I think your chapter 4 is just a shift altogether of your life, and my take out of it is that this shift or this ripple effect was triggered by you deciding to get married.
Yeah.
at a young age, whereas some people who were creating magic as you were, who were mixing with the it people, would not even have considered getting married at the pinnacle of, I'll just say pinnacle in inverted commas because you were still young, but at the height of your career. Why did you decide to do that? And I'm asking this, but I would like us to continue with your chapter 4. But it's very interesting because you made a decision and you realized that this decision had somewhat of a ripple effect. Some effects you could control, some you can't, because God just decided COVID is going to happen and all of us had to say yes.
To be quite honest, marriage was not always in the books for me. Like, it's not something that I planned to say, okay, when I reach 22, I'm going to get married. But because I believe so much in God and just like listening to where He wants me to go, at that time it felt right, you know. At that time it kept nudging me to say, okay, this person wants me to marry them. Like, this has never been in the books for me. But why does it feel so right? You know, it felt like it's something that I needed to do. It's a season that I needed to go in, which I'm grateful for, because at that time I didn't see what it was going to do for me. But now when I look back, I realized that, you know what, I had to get married. I had to grow up, you know. I had to experience what I've experienced so that it could also shape my career, you know, so that when I'm dealing with people, I have more, you know, experience in my personal life that I can relate better to other people, you know. So I feel like at that point it wasn't something I had dreamed about all my life, you know, but at that point it felt like it's something that I had to do. It felt right at that moment, you know. I prayed about it, like, I even fasted about it, and it felt like this is something that I needed to do. Obviously not knowing what it was going to come with.
Correct.
You know, but those things had to happen for me to be like here
where
today,
you are,
you know.
yes.
For me to have learned what I have learned in that period. It had to be in that way. Because when in that season where I thought that I had lost everything, I had to now rediscover myself afresh.
Rebrand.
Yeah. So remember, it was something that I was already starting to do. But now I had to actually remove everything that I'm so accustomed to start rebranding this person and this business that I wanted to be, without anything that's going to pull me back or make me feel guilty, you know, or just make me put like one foot in. So God wanted me to go like all in, so He had to remove like certain things, as painful as it was, but it's just how it had to be.
What did this unfortunate or fortunate period of your rebranding really teach you as an individual who functions within the space of entertainment marketing?
I think the biggest lesson I got from that time was that in life there's always seasons. Till today, I still live off that because of that period. I was in my season of loss. It was like winter in my life, you know, where the trees like start withering, the leaves fall down, the trees are bare and naked. But with seasons, what I also knew is that spring always comes and summer always comes, you know. That's what I learned in that period in my life, to say, okay, this is a season of loss, you know. But after loss, after winter, always comes spring. Every single year without fail, whether we like it or not. And that is how it's going to be in my life. I need to let go of the old, whether I like it or not. Because maybe God felt like if He just asked me to say, hey, KG, let go of the old, I wouldn't have, you know.
It was fun.
Yeah, I wouldn't have. I'd be like, but why?
I'm
Everything is,
myself.
yeah.
Yes.
But sometimes He has to forcefully take things away from us so we can realize the lesson that He's trying to teach us.
Yeah.
So even now, from that period, I look at everything with seasons to say, okay, if things are not going good now, it just means that I'm in the winter. Summer's definitely coming. And when you're in the summer, you need to prepare for winter because you know that's coming again. You know, nothing will be good forever, but now you need to be better prepared for those colder seasons so that you don't shiver to death, you know.
What does that look like? So I've actually just got two questions. In you realizing that you were in your autumn-winter season, right? What did you do? Did you just sit and give into the notion that I'm shedding, I'm not going to do anything, and divine intervention will take over? Or is there something that you did? And then the second part of the question, which is what you've just mentioned now, with regards to you preparing for another autumn-winter season, what does that look like from a person who has built a particular brand and had to rebrand?
In that time, I wasn't just sitting. I think I was trying to rediscover myself so I could rediscover my business. I was praying a lot in that time. I was actually praying, I was fasting, because I was also diagnosed with depression. So I was also trying to fight that, you know, because I didn't like how it felt to be depressed. Like, I hated that feeling. So I was trying to, like, just escape that reality, you know. So I started reading more, you know. I started reading more to say, okay, after winter definitely comes summer, but I need to prepare for the sunny season as well. During lockdown, that's the time I sat down to say, okay, everything is evolving around me. The world is changing. Like, my life is changing. Everything is just so crazy. Okay. But I was like, okay, when I come back, this is what I want to see. So I started working towards that. Do I need to study? Do I need to do some courses? Do I need to, you know, learn something new? Do I need to associate myself with new people? You know, so those were the things that I was looking at that time to say, okay, if I'm gonna go into this new season and this is what I want for myself, then right now, since everyone is in lockdown, let me just meditate. Let me find myself. As soon as my mental health is like back to normal, then I can start this business from scratch again. So for me, it was like starting OMG Group from scratch again. I did not think about what I did from 2018 until now, but I was like, okay, forget the past. What am I doing now? How am I coming back? You know, how am I building this business from now that I want to leave everything else behind? So that's what I did. I started telling myself to say, okay, I don't want to be in entertainment only anymore. Let me look at corporate. Let me see how it works in corporate. Let me see how it works in the TV space. You know? What else can I do to educate people about, like, the importance of branding? You know? What else can I do to fulfill my purpose when the sunnier days comes or when summer comes? So I started working towards those things. Your other question about what it is that I'm doing now to prepare for winter is because you know that hard times are coming and what it feels like. You know, now what I'm doing, like in terms of business, I'm building a system to say, okay, if something like this were to happen to me again, then I know that my business would keep running because I've experienced this before. And I know that at that time, I would tell myself, had I had 1, 2, 3, like this wouldn't be standstill. So now I'm just working towards like building systems to say, okay, if something were to happen to me today, how will my business keep going? If I had to stop something right now to focus on my family, you know, how will I ensure that work is still being done? So I'm in that process right now. And also saving plays such a big role, especially in being an entrepreneur, to say, okay, in 1 month, work will be booming, the money will be flowing in. But for the next 4 months, what if it's quiet? What do I live off? You know, so saving is so important in that aspect, that when you make money today, rather leave it for the days where there's no money coming in. I also learned how to adapt. I think COVID taught us a lot about adapting. Am I stubborn to say my business is only doing PR? Or if an opportunity arises for me to adapt and go into something else that aligns with this public relations or aligns with marketing, am I willing to open myself up, to learn about it and to take that in? That's where the branding side of my business came in. Because during COVID, it's fine, we did the social media influencer thing, that was big, but now, after COVID, like the events are starting to kick in, and now people like, we want branded wall banners, we want this, we want this, we want this. And I was like, here's an opportunity. Since it's quiet this side, and I have some knowledge on this, why can't I like branch into this as a service offering as well and adapt and just grow with where the country is going or where the times are going?
So with you having identified that opportunity, how did you take advantage of it, and who gave you a chance to take advantage of that?
So how I decided to take advantage of it is that with our clients, as events started coming out again, everyone wants to do a launch, like we want to do an event, we want to do this. And I saw what a nightmare it was to get like efficient suppliers that can give you this and this and this. So I sat down, I Google is my best friend. I Googled, okay, how does this work? How does this industry work? Okay. And I realized that, you know what, there's no course. Like there's no course, there's no degree,
for eventing.
Yeah. Like there's no degree for branding. It's just a skill that you need to learn as you go. You just need to know who the suppliers are. Already I'm a graphic designer, so I can already design these wall banners. I already design logos, and all I need to do is find someone that's going to print it. You know, I'm already halfway there. So I sat and I researched, okay, what does it entail to be like a good branding company? I'll make an example with a wall banner. What does a quality wall banner look like? What materials should it have? So that when I'm searching for suppliers, then I know exactly what I'm looking for. So I went on to read books, you know. I did like, you know, these free courses that you get on the internet, you know. And that's how I got into it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's great. What is that? That's your chapter 4.
Yeah, 4 to 5.
4 to 5.
Yeah.
Your chapters have been very interesting.
Thank you.
It's a rebirth, which is a rebranding. And I think the essence of it is that you've kept on educating yourself on what is happening out there to keep yourself very relevant, which is very important when you are a custodian of a brand, whether that brand is you or your organization, or you're offering branding solutions to a client of any sort. Your story has been very insightful. And as a marketing professional and as somebody who's now broadening their scope within your organization, if somebody is a marketing person, if you were to write a brief about your chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, what would that brief look like? What would be the tone of it? Who would be Kgomotso within that campaign? What would be the song or the background song or theme song for that campaign? Where would this campaign be placed and why? And at the end of it all, what would be the underlying message of that campaign?
I think if there were to be a brief about my life, it would air on like SABC 1, because that is accessible to the mass market, to the majority of South Africans, you know, because it would basically tell a story that not everything is easy. We all get through stumbling blocks. We all get thrown stumbling blocks in our lives, and what matters is how we come out from them, what we do in that season to conquer whatever it is that we're going through. And if it were to have a soundtrack, it would definitely be Seasons by Hillsong, because that song basically just tells you that in life there's always seasons. Sometimes it's going to be winter, but in that winter, you know for sure that summer is coming. It says that winter comes for us all. It says that nature acquaints us with the nature of patience. It teaches us about patience in the season that we're going to, that we shouldn't rush into things, because things will unfold as time goes, but just embrace the season that you're in and work with what you have at that time. I think someone who would play me, I think it would be Ndwandwe. Do you know her?
I do know her.
Yes, I followed her journey for so long, and I feel like we relate on certain aspects, that we got married young and we both have 2 kids, and just like finding that work-life balance. In fact, there is no balance. It's basically work-life integration, because your work needs to integrate with your life. For us, there's no work without personal life, and there's no personal life without work. So it's more of a work-life integration. So I think she would make the perfect me. It would basically be a setting, like a very calm setting, because I'm a very calm person, Even though the industry that we're in and the field that I'm in tends to be chaotic at some time, but you need to find your calmness. You need to find that element in yourself that you know what, even if things go, I need to stay here. So I think that would be the brief, to say whether things go bad or good, you need to approach them in a calm manner, so that you can find solutions that will not take you out of the way. Because when we make decisions in panic mode, you end up making decisions that you're going to regret. Everything for me is based literally on being calm. So I think the highlights of the brief were that it needs to be calm, and we need to understand that there's seasons in everything, and it needs to appeal to the mass market, just to show that not everything is an overnight success. We all go through ups and downs, and you need to know how to manage those as they come.
Fantastic. And then your campaign message would be just remain.
My campaign message would be slow and steady wins the race.
That's been a consistent message throughout our conversation.
There's actually a book I read. I just forgot the title, but the author was with a very successful billionaire, and he asked him, "What is your favorite book of all time?" I think it was Robin Sharma. Yeah. Robin Sharma was with a very successful billionaire, and he asked him, "What is your favorite book of all time?" And he said that my favorite book is The Rabbit and the Hare. The Hare and the Tortoise. The Hare and the Tortoise. Because the message from the book is basically slow and steady. The race. And that made so much sense to me, because I've never looked at that book in that light. And looking at it in that light makes so much sense in my adulthood. Yeah, and
it's so interesting that you said that. I was having a conversation with somebody just last week, if I'm not wrong. And as I was explaining the purpose of this podcast, I made an example of the tortoise and the hare story, in that it's a story that is told, but at the end of it all, the message is be authentic, choose you, go at your own pace, and you will eventually get to where you want to be.
Yeah, what's meant for you will come to you.
Absolutely. So it's been a fantastic time. I've learned a lot. I've also learned that you are a very resilient human being, which as a brand custodian one needs to be, because brands need to be brands need to be resilient. There's in the study of marketing, brands go through a bell curve period.
Yeah.
And whenever you do go through that dip, when you do rebrand, you rebrand with your essence intact. And that is what has come across in our conversation. So I really do appreciate you sitting with us and sharing your authentic story. And they were nuggets that we got out of there, which are teachable moments for people that are not only younger than you, but people that are older than you, that want to get into the space that you want to be in, to own their time and be entrepreneurs. So we really appreciate your time. And thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor. I think I had a great time sharing, and I hope that someday when someone listens to this, they will be reminded in their journey.
Yes.
That these things happen. Sometimes we go down, but the most important thing is to rise up again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Rise up like a phoenix. As
Yeah.
everybody says. Thank you for watching. Cheers.